Hey everyone, I'm Manero here, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to paint clouds with watercolors in Procreate. So let's jump right into it. In order to achieve this, I'm going to be using the Watercolor Experience brush set for Procreate. You can find it along with a free mini version for you to try out on my Gumroad page through the link in the description below. I'm also going to be using this cool photo reference by Jason Blackeye. I will leave the link in the description as well, in case you want to follow along. Before I start with my painting, I'm going to import a couple of textures from the ones that are included with this set. The first one is going to be a watercolor paper texture. This layer needs to stay all the time on top of everything else, and the layer mode needs to be set to multiply. For the second texture, I will add a watercolor wash sheet right below the paper texture, and I will set this layer to overlay mode. I'm also lowering the opacity quite a bit, so that the texture is not so strong. Below these two layers is where any other layers I may need for my painting are going to be. The main thing to have in mind when painting clouds with watercolors is to start by the element that is further from us as the viewers, and then slowly paint the rest of the elements by layering them and building them on top of each other as they get closer to us. The element that is further from us in this case is always going to be the sky. I'm using the wet with dry canvas brush to paint the blue of the sky, and I'm using pressure with the Apple Pencil to control where I want a thicker layer of watercolor paint and where I want it to thin so much that the texture from the white paper starts to show up. This way I'm creating some subtle gradients, especially where the first clouds are going to be placed. Using the paper mixer brush with the smudge tool, I can blend some of the areas while also helping me shape a bit better some of the first clouds that are really far away. I can also use the rough eraser brush with the eraser tool to define those clouds better with sharper edges. On a layer below, and using the super loose brush, I start to paint the dark spots inside the first row of clouds. Sometimes I switch to the smudge tool with the same brush to blend some of the hard edges away. Here's a special trick you are going to see me perform more than once in this video. On my previous layer, where I painted the top part of the sky, I'm going to use the selection tool in automatic mode. Select the exterior of the content of this layer, add a little bit of feather. Swipe with 3 fingers down the screen to bring up the copy and paste menu, and duplicate this selection. Now in this duplicated layer, I'm going to set it as multiply, and duplicate this layer a couple of times. This trick is going to darken the edges of my sky layer in a really soft and subtle way, making it look way more like realistic watercolor on real paper. Back to the other layer where I was painting the first row of clouds, I'm using the rough eraser brush with the eraser tool to give shape to the next row of clouds by using negative shapes. Then I repeat the step of giving form to the clouds by painting the different shadows in the clouds, slowly building up their shape and using the smudge tool from time to time to blend the colors in some areas. Then I follow the same trick of using the selection tool on the previous layer, using a bit of feather, duplicating that portion, setting the layer to multiply mode and duplicating that layer a few times. I'm going to be doing this every time I want to manually darken some edges here and there. So for example, here I painted a new layer of details in these clouds in the middle plane, and I'm using the same trick to darken the edges of these new shapes I painted in. Using the eraser tool again with the rough eraser brush, I'm adding a new row of clouds and repeating the darkening edges trick again. Notice how I'm using the smudge tool to blend some of those dark edges. This is important so that the effect looks more realistic. Then on another layer I start working in the details for this new row of clouds. You can see how it is a very easy process that I'm just repeating over and over with every new row of clouds I'm adding into my painting. Pretty easy but also pretty effective. Here I added a new layer on top of the whole piece, and I'm using a totally different color so we can clearly see what I'm doing. I'm basically masking the big mass of clouds because I want to separate it for a moment from the sky part on top. By separating these two parts into their own layers, I can erase some bits without affecting the unwanted area so that I can make the big mass of clouds stand out a bit more by revealing some of that white from the paper around the edges of the clouds. I can use some of the included splatter brushes to add a few watercolor drops here and there. As a final touch, I'm adding a couple of watercolor stamps that are also included with this set, and integrating them with my painting in a couple of spots to make it look even more like it was made with traditional watercolor. And this is the final result. I really hope you liked this video. If you use my brushes and post your art on social media, feel free to use the hashtag Manero Brushes so that I can see what you create. I will be extremely happy to share your creations with my audience. Don't forget to subscribe for more art related videos and give me a thumbs up. Also, make sure to check out my Gumroad page, where you will find the Watercolor Experience brush set for Procreate and many other sets that I have available. I'm sure something will suit your artistic needs. All the links are in the description below. Okay, thank you for watching. See you next time.